Hey, I think you guys need to unmute yourselves.
Peter, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, Peter. I'm not going to repeat everything, but basically we just, we're starting the discussion about the survey questions. So I gave everyone the questions that were developed by the committee members. I guess we can focus on those first. Anybody have any thoughts on these questions that were submitted here? First feedback?
Very comprehensive.
Yeah.
I think they're good. They're good questions.
I didn't cull any of them out to kind of see if there was any repetitive questions out there. I just put them all in here that were included, that were sent to me. I kind of like the ones, I mean, I think these are all good questions. The way the town of Ross set their questions up. Everybody have that one? I think as well. This, I think the general, the way they were set up and kind of what the information that they're looking for was consistent with the questions we had, maybe in different order or different formatting, or maybe the questions were worded a little differently. But I kind of liked how the town of Ross had set up their questions. So what I think, my thought is, once, hopefully today, we can compile a list of questions and we can send it out. My thought is we'll do a little bit of PR. I know Peter Curry is on the phone. Maybe we can get him to put an article in the paper about this survey. I think we can host a survey on the town website. There's a form which we can do that, and then we can get the results sent to us directly. And then maybe at our next meeting, we can look at the results. Well, I think the general questions, the most important ones are, are you aware about short-term rentals? Are you aware that they're not allowed in town now? Would you be supportive of them in town? And if you are supportive, are there any conditions or restrictions that you think are important to incorporate into the bylaws or regulation that we're looking to develop?
I think one thing we need to look at is, in their case, that they are renters. In my case, I'm not. So you get two different viewpoints completely. I understand why they do it, to understand it. But, what you do at the lake doesn't affect me at all in South Louis, that type of thing.
Right.
But it could, I mean, you could have a neighbor, right, that wants to do a short term.
Hope that's my daughter.
But that town of Ross, that's the first question they ask.
Right.
Whether you're a property owner or the renter or the business owner. Short-term rental is a business. So
Yeah.
that would be the C answer.
Are we going to try and come up with some sort of a format like this? Maybe?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
From Ross?
Well, that was my thought. I mean, we don't need to recreate the wheel, right?
No.
But I think we could probably take town of Ross's questions and then maybe incorporate some of the questions we had, maybe tailor them to what we're looking to get out of it. So you wanted, let's look at town of Ross, right? We'll look at the first question, okay?
Where is Ross? Okay, where is Ross?
I don't even know. I was not in Massachusetts.
Okay.
It was somewhere else.
Okay.
So which of the following best describes you, right? So I think that's fair, whether you're a property owner, a renter, a business owner. That's a fair question. And then the next question is, which neighborhood or street do you live on? So if you are I think this would be important if, say, you were living on the lakes and you want to, rent your property. At least we know where are you coming from, right? Is it a lakefront project? Is it somewhere in the hillside, west side, in the farmland?
Number one, number two, good, okay.
Number three, how many short-term rentals are you aware of in your neighborhood? That's a good question, right? I'm not aware of any in my neighborhood, but
There might be some that we're not aware of.
Yeah,
Right?
there are probably a lot out there that we're not aware of either, And depending on where you live, so we know where you live in number two, right? So say you live on White Street and you're aware of 2 to 5, and we know, okay, well, there's potential, there's some out in White Street, or wherever.
What's the town's liability if there's a rental going on, which is illegal, and we allow it? In fact, we actually used it a couple of times. What's our liability in that? What's the town's liability?
I don't know, it's a good question. You're allowing something that's not legal, right? So you're,
It's quote, in the hands of the lawyer, and it's been in the hands of the lawyer for 3 years.
yeah.
The lawyer hasn't quite decided what to do.
Well, I think they're kind of waiting for our committee to come up with a plan, right? So I know it's, I think we all know what's out there.
Yeah.
But the lawyer is looking for some direction, kind of south of what do you want to allow, what don't you want to allow? So that's why we're here today. Let's see, have you ever rented or considered renting your residence? And I think that's also a good one. Yes or no, but maybe you considered doing it in the past. Have you ever rented your residence for less than 30 days, and which platform did you use, right? So Airbnb and Vrbo are probably the two bigger ones. I've never heard of HomeAway, but I'm sure there are others. I mean, even maybe it's on like Craigslist, you post. How do you advertise, Jackie?
Oh, so I typically have, I don't have a short-term rental. I just have a regular
Oh,
house
okay.
that's a rental. Do you know what I mean? So I usually
Gotcha.
go through a rental agent who, gets me a lease and a full-time tenant.
It's not a short-term rental.
Right.
It's a
So,
regular rental.
right.
Gotcha. Have you ever rented your residence bedroom or separate guest house with or similar dwelling unit for less than 30 days? Oh, we talked about that, sorry.
Yeah.
Number 6, how do you perceive the presence of short-term rentals in your neighborhood? That's I think, an important question.
Very
Is it
important.
positive or negative, or
Right.
are you neutral?
And hopefully, I was gonna say, is the next one hopefully saying, maybe they'll go into whether it's positive or negative and why they feel it's that way?
Right.
Yes,
The
yep,
effect,
Nobody's a parking, whatever, yeah.
right. It's good to have the yes or no, or yes, it's positive, or no, it's negative, but
Right.
the why
The
is.
why.
But I was
almost
just
more
gonna
important.
say, it doesn't, the next one, have you been affected? So I guess that's kind of like, what do you see as positive or negative? So I wonder if there's a part that we can put after the 6 that says, you know what I mean? Like, if you say that it's positive, why is it positive? If you say it's negative, why is it negative? You know what I mean? Like, is there a way for us to say, kind of explain your answers or something? Yeah, your perspective.
Mhm.
Yep, we can certainly add a box like that,
Okay,
where you can write in, you can give them, how many characters, they're in the characters, and they can just give
okay.
a couple sentences or even a paragraph. Why it's positive or negative. Yep, absolutely.
And that would be more of a personal thing versus, I guess, the next one is more about your neighborhood and
Mhm.
True, yep. Have you been affected by the operation of short-term in your neighborhood? So
Right.
that, again, that may give you more feedback.
right.
Item 8, describe which circumstances you would be supportive of allowing short-term rentals. And then 9 is which
Yeah.
circumstances you would not be
Not,
supportive.
right, okay.
Seems like there may be some repetitive responses in why it's positive or negative versus questions 8 or 9.
I think you can make that into one.
You can probably combine it into one, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Wonder if they just did it because they wanted more details for me, you know what I mean? Whereas the 350 characters for each gives someone, if they don't have much in either way, to be able to put it into the
I
other
don't think
one.
8 and 9 could be put into 7, actually, because it's all together.
Yeah, I was thinking actually go into 6, then the add in why it's positive or negative,
Yes,
and
yeah.
why would you support it? Why would you not support it?
Right.
We can give them more than 3
Yeah.
characters too. We
Explain
can-
your answer to everything.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
And then number 10 here, so if Southwick were to create short-term rentals, which of the following rental issues should the town consider developing standards to regulate or address? But I think this is also important. I mean, these are all things that we're going to be looking at when we develop the bylaw or the regulation. But it's probably good to get that feedback from the town as well, where there may be some circumstances that are very important and we may not be considering it
Right.
as important as the responders. So are there any other categories here that you see that maybe we should be thinking about? And maybe that's when we go look at the questions we have here that we posed. to ourselves. The second page of the survey questions like taxes and should the homeowner live on the premises? Penalties for violations. If there's a registration or inspections. Any thoughts on that? Should we add?
What sheet are you on?
I'm on sheet question 10 of the town of Ross.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then I'm looking at the questions that were developed by the committee members.
Gotcha.
So the first question, how often do rentals get inspected? You know, is that a question we should ask? Should they be inspected frequently or more frequently or less frequently?
Of course, you realize then that raises the next question, don't you? Who's gonna do it?
Right?
Yep, that is something that we gotta address as well. Yep.
How often do they get inspected and by? First question.
Who, other communities, who does the inspections? I think this may be a combined effort by several boards and departments.
Yeah.
And I think the fire, they may be involved for egress purposes, fire purposes, building inspector may be involved for their purposes.
But then again, I think they should not so much be expenses be covered by the town, but be covered by the people that are renting. You know, if you need a permit, it's gonna cost you $25,
Right,
something like that. Right?
right.
For the inspector, $25 for the fire department. I mean, we can at least supplement their cost of it, you know, because they're busy now, and, you know, give them more work,
Right.
you know.
But I was gonna say, is it usually, I mean, what do we do for businesses in town? Because I'm not aware. Like, do we have a regular, you know what I mean, like an inspection process for regular restaurants and such
Well,
that
the
people are in
restaurants
and
would
out
be through, health.
through
that'd be
just
through
the
health.
health department and it's
Yeah.
like
And there
once a year?
There
kind of
is a
thing?
once-a-year inspection by the health department.
Okay,
and,
and other than that, they don't have to do any
I gotta assume the
fire
fire
or
department,
building or
I gotta
anything?
assume the fire department. You know,
I know they do inspections for new construction.
right,
Like if
Right.
there's a new building, then you inspect the sprinkler system, they do that. I'm not aware of what they do for continued inspections. You
Right.
aware of it?
No, they have a board of health inspection every year. They also have inspections so they can get their liquor license yearly. Beyond that.
Yeah. It's about all I would
Fire
be,
inspection.
yeah, I don't think there's anyone's, like, kind of like what's being proposed here, being talked about here, where there's a once or twice a year, there's a whole checklist of items. I don't think any other board, or committee, the department does that.
Right. But this is,
Other
you
than
know,
the
a
Board of
new,
Health,
right,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, it's new for everybody across the US, you
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah, I can ask Kyle Scott too, and he's not here. He would probably know what other inspections are done. If any.
Right.
this would be a surprise, like the fire department did do a yearly inspection on businesses for fire exits, fires, you know.
I was gonna say, we do the
extinguishers.
schools all the time,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah.
know,
Well, there are occupancy permits, right, on like a lot of the establishments. I wonder if that gets inspected every year. We should, I can reach out to the chief
I mean,
later on and ask him.
who was the last person going to Big Y did a safety inspection? Who was the last person that went to, you know, I should say job on?
right,
Does the backfire alarm, when you open the doors, actually work?
right, does it work? Right, yeah, you're right. Does
Or
the
is it blocked
sprinkler,
off?
does the sprinkler system work? Right,
Yeah,
Mm.
if it's not here, it should be done anyway. We should probably incorporate it in the town as far as a safety procedure for the town.
right,
You can just see what happens. If something happens, it's just, well, fire department never looked at it. You can just see it coming down the pipe.
right.
What about, one of the questions that we pose, should the homeowner also live on the premises? And if not, who oversees? So maybe asking if that's something important, that the homeowner is actually living there and not
Like
just
talking
renting it
short-term
out,
now.
and, you know,
You're
living down in Florida and renting out
talking- Right, but you're talking short term.
for short term,
Absolutely,
for short term.
Absolutely, yeah.
But in your situation, you obviously don't live in a premise, but you're renting.
Right, right,
So do you like long-term rental, and when you do like,
Right now, I
So
mean,
most
like I've
people-
had, I was gonna say, I typically get a tenant in that stays, and then when I started to read some of the stuff where the state was like anything 31 days or less, and that's where I got nervous. I'm like, wait a minute, why am I getting subjected to this all of a sudden? And then when I read more, it's more about anything tenancy at will, or you start out with a lease, and then it turns into tenancy at will. You're not governed by any of these. I'm like, okay. So technically, right now, I am not governed by any of it. Do you know what I mean?
right,
But based on everything that's happening in the world, you wonder, what's gonna come down the line for lots of things, And so and that is my thing, is sometimes everyone's like, oh, well, if you have a break in tenancy, can you rent out Airbnb for a month? You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't really know. So, I mean, that's never been something that I've thought about until now it's like a big thing. So I'm like, oh, well, I might also be in on it and hear about it and see, what it would take to even do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some
If you wanna
people
do it.
might not want to do it, but I think it's been happening in our town for a long time. Not that I've, really been, aware of it or whatever, but
so if you rent to your in-laws. No, seriously, let's say
Right.
there's in-laws there, and you rent to them, let's say they pay you $200 a month, just for, is that,
right.
is family different? I mean,
I don't know. I was just gonna say, I don't know.
Just, questions to throw out there and try to find answers for.
Right. But I think a lot of times too, is this small term rental stuff that I was reading, some of the emails that you had sent, that just gave more details about the state and stuff like that, talking about the state taxes that are paid and the taxes that are supposed to go to our town. So it's like I already have 5.7% tax supposed to go right to the state from all those short-term rentals. And then it's 6% to the town automatically, I guess. It doesn't say that you pay it to the town. It says that you pay it to the state, and then I guess the state allocates it based on when they get it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is my understanding, is that everything goes to the state and then they allocate it. If so, they know the town has 3 short-term rentals, and then okay, here's your piece of the pie.
Right, because they know where their taxes come in from. You know what I mean? They know where they got their percentage from, what part of the state. So supposedly it's supposed to at least get back to our town. Whether it does or not, I don't know.
So the
You know?
town doesn't have to take tax revenue either. That's something we probably should, we'll discuss, is whether we want to have that.
Oh, I see.
So the town has to adopt a certain code of Mass General Law.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically trigger that mechanism where the town will get some income through the tax. rate.
So in other words, if anyone in our state, in our town has been paying the tax to the state, it doesn't trickle down to us currently
Right now.
as the town, right?
Correct,
We
yeah.
don't get
We don't have
anything.
any excise taxes or whatever they call it.
Yeah, town,
So like,
I know.
or impact fees or review.
I was gonna say the impact fees look like another additional one where
Yeah,
they,
the-
like if you had down at the Cape, they were talking about taking care of beaches and stormwater and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, is a room occupancy.
Oh, yeah,
excise
room
tax.
occupancy.
That's what it's.
Yeah.
called, So there's this document, this DSL document, DLS document. It's actually very helpful. This is geared towards municipalities
Okay,
and what has to happen. So the question here, my city town does not have a local option excise. How do we adopt it? And then there's a Mass General Law that has to be established. And the max local rate is 6%. And then there's a process which we can follow, which basically it's a vote by city council. And then a town meeting vote as well. This is something I sent this out, I think one of the last meeting or two. I
Oh,
can give this
okay.
to you, Jackie, if you want.
okay.
Yeah, this is actually very helpful. This FAQ document here. So I guess going to the list here, so I think maybe asking questions whether it's important for the homeowner to live on the premises would be important, or maybe not important to people responding to the questions.
I guess it depends where you are, what you're doing, right?
Yeah,
It's not important to me. I'm sure it's important to her.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Because person living there keeps a little more control on
right.
it. The illegal parking, the drinking, the partying, the late night firecrackers going off, that sort of stuff.
Right, but I think there's a lot of them that are doing with, no homeowner on the premises. You may live in the town, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But not actually on the premises. So
There
in
may
other
not
words,
be,
if you
there may
have,
not be space on the premise for have to,
or not only that, you don't want to share your space, you know what I mean? You don't want to share your space in that way. Like, I
Right.
personally would not Airbnb very, add someone strange sleeping in my house, but
No.
everybody's different,
Yeah.
you know?
So, a lot of these houses on the Cape, I mean, let's say, down by the lake, aren't big enough to quote, two-family type. of
Oh,
thing.
right. That too.
Okay, so looking at these, so actually I misread this. So question 10 and question 11 are the same. It looks like it was just a page break.
Okay.
So they do have an item here for owner occupancy, hosted or non-hosted requirements. So whether that's important. Or not
Oh,
important.
okay, right.
So it kind of
Mhm.
continues on to the very bottom of that page there.
Mhm.
As well as a number of occupants, number of days, number of bedrooms. Neighborhood notification. I think those are all really good things to inquire about. And then the last question is, do you support what they call it? In this case, it's a transient occupancy tax.
Right.
Occupancy tax is the equivalent of our local room
Occupancy,
excise
right.
tax, yeah.
And
that
if
was
we
it.
do that- I'm sorry, but if we do that, where's that money go? Just until. The big
I was
black
gonna
hole?
say, you would hope that it goes into something that whatever group ends up having to watch all of this
Yeah.
stuff. You know what I mean?
Subsidizes Somebody else going out and doing inspections.
Right,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a couple options. One would be to goes back into the local general fund. But there also are revolving line items. Every town meeting, there's a revolving line item article.
Mhm.
And so, for example, Lake Management, I think, or the Conscom, they have a revolving account where money from dock fees goes into that account. And they use that to pay for their management of the docks, the dock fees and the
Yeah.
permitting process. So that kind of goes back into that same program.
right, I see.
So I don't know how it depends on how it's set up in the town, kind of who is responsible to manage it. And, if we want to allocate some dollars towards maybe that person's salary or maybe towards inspections, maybe hire a third-party inspector, and whatever fees comes in through these
Yeah, like
taxes,
Right.
that just goes back to, a $50 inspection fee to whoever, who's doing that work. So
Right, which might make sense because like you said, who's gonna do,
who's responsible, who has the time for it.
and who's gonna,
yeah,
right, who's gonna
yeah.
watch over it, who's gonna make sure things happen, right?
I have an assistant building inspector in town. Don't we use Granville?
Granville's a backup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even Westfield, I mean, there's an MOU with Granville and maybe Westfield to provide backup services in case if Kyle
Yeah,
is not here.
because maybe one of them, if Kyle's too busy and doesn't want to do it, maybe anything, little side job or say, call it, what do you want to call
Yeah. So that was the last question from Ross. Is there anything that you think we're missing? If you kind of maybe go back to the questions that were asked, that were posed by the committee. I guess questions is, like number 2 is, do you think Southwick has an ongoing problem with short-term rentals? That wasn't asked in this here, but, maybe you cover that, by your, why, is it positive or negative?
Yeah,
Right.
attitude question.
it? See, that goes back to, I'm sure she feels that we have a problem. I don't even know about it.
Right,
Type of thing, so.
right.
Right. Do you believe short-term rentals should be regulated to some degree? Question 3. I think it's required to be regulated. So that's I'm not sure if that's a
Or maybe
question that
then,
needs to be asked in the survey, but I think the answer is yes, it has to be regulated.
But
It's not
before you get to-
allowed right
but
now.
Before you get to there, is the town even gonna allow them?
Well, I guess, do you get that, you're asking the residents here, are you in favor or not in favor?
Hmm.
And why? Well, based on the feedback we get from this,
Yeah,
that will dictate how we want to proceed, whether they're allowed or not. Are you aware that short terms are prohibited? Maybe that's a question we could add.
maybe you reword it. Do you realize that they are prohibited?
So what I did, let's see,
Number 4, are you aware that they're prohibited? Number 4 on our
Oh, yeah, okay, you're right.
potential survey question.
yep.
You're right. Thank you.
So we could add that. Are you aware they're prohibited right now? And maybe that itself good advertising that they're not allowed, and that's why we're here.
Mhm.
What do we do? The person has one, has a contract. I can just use you for example, short term. So you have a contract with the Joneses, rent your place for 30 days. And you find out it's illegal. Do you kick them out? Do you cancel it? Does the town fine you? I mean, where does it go?
Right,
You
right,
give you 30-day notice, you don't have to do it anymore?
right.
Speak of it.
But I think that I was just gonna say, I mean, when you look now that I've been looking, you can see that there's at least a couple of them, but they're doing it by a couple of days. I don't know which one is, you know what I mean? You know what your one in your neighborhood is, but that's where I think the questions come in. And I think, like we said, we're really just trying to gear it towards in our town. Do we want to do something about this? Not do something about that? And if you don't want to do anything, then we don't need to hear about it anymore. But then if we do want to do something, what do we want to do about it? Right.
So does everybody think the Ross survey with the couple modifications we put into it, does that sound good?
Yeah, I
to
think it's
everybody?
good. I think it's
So
good.
far, they're pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, no objections to that approach
Hmm.
from anybody? No? So what I can do is, oh, Pat, go ahead.
Number one, we've got property owner
Mm-hmm.
and then renter. Maybe we ought to be specific that business owner is the B and B.
Or I think they were trying to ask if you're just a business owner in town, like you own the gas station or, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Village Pizza or whatever,
It's not
so you could potentially
specific
be,
enough to say,
So you're property owner or business owner?
right, or you have a rental,
Right, so it said renter.
you have a renter.
Or are you a renter do you rent?
no, they're
Or-
asking who you are.
This is about you.
The
So are you, so
question is
you would
When
be
you're
a
answering
property
the
owner, right?
questions.
But a business owner, like say, for example, say the summer house, right? They had a second story bedroom above the restaurant, right?
Yeah,
I guess they would check off a business owner, right? Because that way they are running a business on the first floor.
Right,
Maybe they want to rent out the second floor or
Mm.
under.
and they would answer the questions,
yeah.
appropriately,
Yeah.
But
right?
the renter's asking, are you?
Or you just, do you
are
live in
the
town,
renter? Are you
right?
the renter, not
Right.
the rentee?
Like you
Renter.
don't own the house,
Right,
right? You just
right.
happen to be living in our
Right.
town, right?
Yeah, so the other would be, yes, I own a B and B. I'm a business owner with the business being the B and B.
Right,
So I think you would capture that under question 4. So question 4
Oh, all
on
right,
Ross is,
okay.
have you rented or considered
Gotcha.
renting a
Right, gotcha,
residence?
right.
Yes, I may.
All right, okay, you got it there. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank
I
you.
wonder if you could put property owner and renter in the same thing, because I find out, like she mentioned, she took it to be, am I renting? Not, are you renter?
But I
And you
think,
could- you put down property owner or renter, so they would be in the same.
well, but you're just looking at where your perspective is coming from. Do you know what I mean?
No, I understand, but somebody's gonna say, am I a renter? Do I rent? Or do I rent to, or am I a renter from?
Yeah, it can be confusing. You're not asking if you're renting an Airbnb now. You're asking,
Say the word tenant.
Yeah,
You know, if you're a tenant, then I don't own the place. I'm just-
so you put down renter and put down not tenant.
Maybe it just, we need to say, which of the following best describes yourself? Yourself,
situation.
you are a
Yeah.
property owner, you are a town, maybe you want to just town resident, I don't, well,
Tenant is a good.
tenant instead of
that's a
renter.
good,
Or renter or tenant in parentheses.
just tenant, I think just tenant.
Right, so
Okay.
you
Yeah.
either own the property,
that's
you're a
good,
tenant
yeah,
there,
I like
you
that.
own a business in
Okay, Mike.
town.
Tenant,
Yeah,
yeah, tenant, that's a good,
Or it could be
Good
someone who works
description.
in town, do you know what I mean? So you could put yourself on other, as in maybe you don't live in the town, but you have a perspective because you happen to be a cashier at Big Y. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
thank you. Thank
and
you,
then
I
what
appreciate that.
neighborhood?
Yep,
Yeah.
How many are in your area? Have you done it?
So any more feedback on this? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna compile this. I will,
Geez, Ross is something.
yeah. Oh, I also, so this little introduction I worded, where it says potential survey questions. this little blurb about the town of Southwick short-term rental committee
Oh,
seeking
right.
feedback. I wrote that, so that would kind of be the introduction.
Sure. Good.
Unless if you have any objections to that. And I did say one submission per household is allowed. If there's any discussion on that, I mean, we could,
That makes sense.
what I don't want to have is people submitting, several responses back.
Mhm.
I want to avoid that.
So how
That
do
means you
you,
have to sign your name.
I was gonna say, how do you limit it?
You have to sign your name.
Well, that's a hard thing to do, right? You're relying on people to do the right thing. When we do get these back electronically, there is a way we can track the IP address. So that if we get several surveys with the same IP address, we know they came from the same computer.
Lovely.
I'm sure there are ways around that,
Yeah, go to a different computer.
but at some
Borrow John's computer.
point,
Just borrow John's computer.
you gotta rely on what you're getting and
Yeah.
take it for
I
what
want to
it's worth.
give, so your feedback about the town decision makers. I think you should put down the town short-term rental subcommittee. There's this decision maker that covers a lot of territory.
Your feedback will help the short-term rental committee?
Yeah.
Or what about your feedback will help the planning board maker? Because we're working for the planning board.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's ultimately their decision.
Yeah.
Your feedback will help the planning board.
We'll have the short-term rental subcommittee present information to the planning board or whatever.
That's fair. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're presenting to the planning board, right? So
Put some sort of a timeline on this. Like, 15 days or, respond, like,
oh, we should, yeah, that's a good,
To respond by.
please respond by, so what do you think? Right now, we are 3rd of May.
no more than 30 days.
So once we put it out, we give them 30 days. I think if you don't
Yeah.
do it within 30 days, you're never gonna do it, right?
Correct.
So I'll put a date on here. So whatever, if we can get this out, say by next Monday,
Yeah, just,
I'll just pick a date 30 days
Yeah.
beyond that.
Mhm.
And how are we getting the word out? Like you said, just trying to get a article in the newspaper that says,
Either both.
go see our website,
could you get this
log on
out there?
and do the
Could you
survey.
get this published in the paper? Is that a big expense or a big hassle?
I
Hey, who reads the
don't
paper
know.
anymore? Besides me?
Yeah. I know Peter's on the line. Peter, would you be willing to do an article on this?
Of course.
That'd be great. Yeah, so there'll be a website, a link I can share with you, Peter, and maybe if we can, I can give you some background if you want to put on the article.
Yeah, sure.
But if you could at least share the link to the website where this is going to be posted, that would be very helpful.
Will do.
Mr. Chair, if I may suggest, I can coordinate with Jim Middleton, get something on the Southwick splash page on their announcements and on the TV announcements and board announcements page.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some people will get that, I think, as part of the notifications if they subscribe. Otherwise, people draw some attention on a banner when someone hits the homepage.
Yep.
Put a decal on a police car and drive around town, they can see.
There's a lot of people that announce it.
We could even try to
Fill out your
put something
survey
in
now.
the town crier
Oh,
center of
that's
town.
Town crier would work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
right.
Channel 15, the local
Or
news.
did you a questionnaire,
Right,
just leave it at that. and just,
right.
So I can coordinate all
perspective
those avenues to push this out to the public. And the town doesn't have a Facebook page. But if anybody here would like to do that through their own web Facebook,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't really use that either.
I do see that, I don't know if this is related or not, Diane has her hand up, and,
Oh, I don't even see
I
the,
think you have to unpin that one there, Randy.
what do I need to do?
I hit the 3 buttons.
The 3 buttons. Which 3 buttons?
It's down there.
Hello?
Oh,
Hi, Diane.
I think we can,
We're trying to find you.
just introduce yourself real quick, Diane, thank you.
Diane Gale, 5 Point Grove Road. Just to comment on your line there about your feedback will help the committee or the planning board. Perhaps you want to say your feedback will help the town decide.
Well,
Yeah.
it has to go from here to the planning board, Diane, before it goes to the town.
So the way it was written was your feedback will help the town decision makers. And then Dick made a comment about modifying that to specific to the short-term rental committee. And then the planning board.
Okay, and then I can certainly share everything all over the Southwick forums because I do that frequently.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah,
Once I
so,
see it.
all right, I'm hoping to get this up and running by early next week. That'd be my goal. So, Diane, I'll let you know when I do that. That'd be great. Thank you for that. Anything else on the survey?
Put notification in Southwoods also.
Southwoods, yep. Do you know how often they advertise?
No, it's once a month, but I mean, if you get it in there before,
We have to do it, we want to get their next advertisement, right? Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't have to be an ad, you know, you can just notify.
Right, but it only comes out once a month, the same.
Yeah, it comes out, I wouldn't want to put it out in a period after the survey is over. That's why I asked.
Yeah, no, if you, the May issue cuts off like on Friday.
This coming Friday. Okay.
So, you know, if you've got it almost ready, give it to them.
Yeah,
And they would put it in for the May issue.
right.
Okay.
right.
And then that would work because
Right.
the deadline is June.
Right, even if you just say, check our website, you know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
town
just-
website at
just
whatever,
the
even
word,
though you
yeah.
don't have a,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
finished yet, or, you know,
I will.
First, you were
survey
going
to
on
be
in
honest,
town,
yeah, just survey is coming soon, or, you know,
Well, also.
or
there's
this
survey going out
month,
for
just
what,
say May.
What's Mark is working on now, the master plan, right?
Mhm.
That's
There's
gonna-
a big
that's
survey
quite-
coming up.
A big survey coming on that too,
When's that happening?
soon.
That's
We should try to get it out
true.
before that. I don't know.
John, when's that coming?
That's gonna be middle
Couple
of
weeks?
June, right? Or middle of May?
Oh, it's happening very quickly.
I'm on that committee as well. We are meeting on Thursday. Hope to finalize that survey as well.
Because you don't
I
want
think
people
it's-
to
I
think
think
they've,
it's-
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's May 15th.
Done the
isn't it?
wrong thing, or
That's
you
what
want them
we-
to do both.
He was
That's Diane
touched to
Schindler.
have it on the street.
That's Diane.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I
May
think that's
15th.
right. That's the numbers
Yeah.
in my head. And my
Yeah.
email's not big.
That's what my,
Marcus wants it out May 16th.
May 16th.
Amazing.
I knew she
I'm
knew.
off by one.
Well, we'll be
Thank
May
you.
16th. How's that?
Pardon?
We're gonna beat May 16th.
Gonna beat it.
We're gonna beat
That's-
it.
Look at you
We'll
guys.
get out
But
there.
make sure you don't get them confused which one's which, you know?
No,
No, I'm just saying,
that's fine.
good.
Okay, anything else on the survey? What are we doing for time?
That's
44.
good.
Okay, good. That's great. That's a great task that we got done today.
Yeah.
Next item is ADA applicability. I threw this on here only because a question came up. Actually, our last town planner, Alan Slusser, he had raised a question, and I'm not sure the answer. And I did ask Kyle Scott the question. He didn't have a chance to look at it before he went on vacation this week. But there's a question whether short terms would be required to meet ADA accessibility standards. I don't know the answer, so I guess I'm kind of waiting at Kyle to give feedback on
I
that.
think that'd be difficult.
When the state came down with regulations in July of 2020 or 2021, it's one of the things that they said was thou shalt have handicapped accessibility.
Does that apply to the whole building or just the room they're renting? Is it just parking? I guess.
When you register, you have to have ADA applicability.
Okay.
You're in trouble.
Me?
No, I'm just saying, you know, I mean, how many hours are 88? You know,
Very, very
Very
good.
Mine's not.
few, very few.
Not, yeah, I get a couple years older, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was one of the things that they stipulated.
Okay,
The state stipulated.
Randy?
yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Town of Williamsburg has a very nice bylaw on short-term rentals, and it says it must apply to all zoning requirements in the town, which would include that, and parking.
So I guess, would it, I guess, I mean, we're not required to have ADA as a single-family house, right? So you're keeping the use as a residential use.
You're turning it into commercial technically.
That's right. It's a business.
But you have an existing business, right? And if they're only, say, doing renovations, less than 30% of the value of the building, you're not required to upgrade to ADA accessibility.
In Williamsburg, they also require a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
That's interesting. So
And they-
I guess I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to have our building inspector chime in on it and
Absolutely,
provide
yeah.
feedback. Alan seemed to think that it would be required, but I think it's a question for the building inspector. So
Mhm.
we're gonna, I guess, probably at our next meeting, I'll have an answer and he can chime in.
How
on
about
that.
Joe knows?
I have opinions, but I don't think I know anything. Too jolly. Go ahead. ask
No,
me.
they're questioning whether on short-term rentals, do they need to be handicap accessible? Option
think
C,
anything that's a
I don't
rental would
know.
need to be, but the second floor houses that are rentals that aren't handicap accessible.
But like she's saying now that the state requires, right? Is that what you're
Yep,
saying?
yep.
Required. I don't know.
When they came down with their ruling that B&Bs were fine as long as they were registered.
That's easy in
They
Boston.
said fire, health, safety, ADA compliant.
I'll put the kibosh on it quick.
So I
So-
mean, they discourage them, but not really discourage
Yeah.
them, you know.
It would certainly hamper, if it is required, it certainly limit the number of properties that could provide short-term rentals
Oh, yeah.
to meet that requirement.
Yep.
Okay, so I will find out on that at our next meeting. The next item I had here was review tax and impact fee data. I think that was more of a carryover from the last meeting, but we talked about today, you know, the potential for the town to collect occupancy excise taxes
Mhm.
through short-term rentals, if you adopt a certain statute of Mass General Law. That's something that we will need to discuss, you know, if we do adopt or make a recommendation to the planning board.
Yeah.
If we do decide to allow short-term rentals.
Right,
I don't even know how much, I mean, I know it's 6%. I don't know what that equates to actual dollars per year. You know, it's obvious depending on the number of properties, but you know, I don't know what the rates are for Airbnbs, a couple $100 a night, maybe a little more than that.
You're saying 6% goes to the state, but nothing really comes back. Is that what you're saying?
They're two separate numbers. The state's gonna get their cut regardless,
Well, they're pretty-
but the town has an option to get up to 6% if you adopt this excise tax.
Collected by,
Collected through the state, it goes all to the state, and the state sends that to the town. Probably a once a year type payment. So that's something to just keep in mind as we go forward. Anything else on that? Okay, that's all I have for discussion items today. Any other new business anybody wants to bring up?
so I brought out that, I was just reading a thing down in Florida where people that have swimming pools have to have alarms on the pool or the gate. There are a couple of situations where some kids almost drowned. I realize a lot of these houses here are on the lake. But if there is a private home being rented, it has a pool, what's the obligation? I would think who would have to have a fence around it, I would think. I don't know.
I think that's required anyways. A pool must have a fence around it.
Mm.
But as far as an alarm system, I've never heard of that.
We have a couple of kids got into the pool, you know, so luckily they were safe, but they opened the gate, you know.
that safety video that we watched was very specific on that.
Yeah.
Thou
was
shalt
the-
have some sort of
It was the
Um,
safety one that came through. Megan sent the information. I don't know who else
I think-
watched it that day.
I think Doug may have found that video. He restored that. That was early on in the,
Yeah.
a couple months ago, yeah.
It was
Mhm.
amazing. People think, well, it's a house, you know, they don't think that it might need safety precautions.
But that was good information where he was trying to say, but he has a safety background too. I think he was I think he was, a fireman or fire chief or whatever. But he was saying if you take care of a lot of the security, you take care of a lot of the safety issues, that it does bring those property owners to be more responsible and you don't have, so many more complaints or problems,
Right.
whether it be fire, whether it be safety, whether it be
Noise.
parking, noise, anything. They were just saying that if you make it more of a safety thing between the town and the homeowner or property owner, that it just makes it safer for everybody.
I assume we were talking about the whole town, not just the lakes. We're talking whole
Oh,
town in general.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Any other new business? Okay, let's go to old business, our routine business. First item is approval of our last meeting minutes from March 8th, 2022. Anybody want to make a motion to accept those meeting minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Motion and a second. Let's do a roll call vote here. Let's see. Dick Utzinger,
Aye.
Rep Banish,
Aye.
Pat Odiorn,
aye.
Jacqueline Sine,
Aye.
Randy Brown, aye. Okay, thank you all in favor. Next meeting date, what do you think? If we get the survey out, probably the next meeting, we should talk about the survey results.
Yeah.
So it may be little more than a month. So if we get the survey out next week, the week of May 9th, that means the survey would close sometime in say the second week of June, say June 10th. Would you want to have a meeting maybe towards the end of June? Give us a couple weeks to compile the results.
I won't be here. It's up to you. I mean,
Okay. Can you zoom in, zoom in, or are you, it's okay?
Are the results recorded as you go along, as it goes along?
Yeah, so what we're gonna get is every time somebody submits a survey through the website, I'm gonna get an email, or someone's gonna need, here are their survey results. And then
Okay.
there's a way to compile that, kind of like summarize all the data, so all the questions.
Computer by computer,
I'm-
so one person doesn't do it? It's
There'll be one person who will be taking all the data and then through some programming, spitting out the results.
John was
So-
5 of days already.
So you're gonna have, your question one, which is, what best describes you, property owner, tenant, or business owner, or other. And then it'll tell you, okay, we have 45% property owners, 55% tenants,
Yeah,
or whatever the
alright.
numbers come up with.
all right.
So that being said, that may take some time, depending on how many surveys we get back. I don't know how many we're gonna get back. We could get 20, we could get 2,000.
That'd be nice.
Hard to say.
But likely.
John, how's that schedule wise work?
I was just noting that planning board. It's 7th to 28th of June.
Would you
Okay.
want to try the meeting, the 28th before the planning board? Or do you think we need more than an hour to,
We may need more than an hour.
we,
Go to question. Okay.
So if you've got the 7th and the 28th, how about the 21st? That'd be 11 days after the,
we can shoot for that. I just don't know how long it's going to take to compile the results. It's going to be by myself and.
We can always
somebody in
extend
town.
it.
We can try that. So let's tentatively plan for the 21st. And then once we get the results in, and maybe we'll see how it goes, right? If we get a lot of results, I'll let you know early on, and we may need more time to compile everything, and then we can push that back, that meeting, the
if
21st.
you
But
need
if,
help, I would be glad to help
okay,
you.
I appreciate that, yeah, okay. So the 21st, is that tentative, we can do that?
Time.
6 o'clock?
That's a Tuesday, right?
Yep. Okay. That's all we got for today. So we're
Motion
gonna
to adjourn?
motion adjourn in a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you for coming.